And how do I start this?
Welcome to the V&R.
It's just the bar.
The bar, yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to the bar.
My name is Blake, and welcome to the bar. Two of my favorite hobbies are making craft cocktails and Magic the Gathering. And I've been working really hard to make some custom cocktails inspired by some famous Magic the Gathering cards, and I wanted to share them with you here. So to start off, what I took inspiration from were some of Magic's most famous or infamous cards in looking at banned and restricted cards. So a couple times a year, sometimes more, sometimes less, the creators of Magic come out with an announcement called the Banned and Restricted announcement, also known as the B&R announcement. And they say which cards are banned or restricted in which formats. So today I've made a cocktail inspired by one of the first ever banned cards. It's a card called Chaos Orb. And what we've done here is we've made a drink with super bold flavors and inspired by the story of Chaos Orb and why it got banned. What I want to do here is first walk through my inspiration behind the cocktail. We'll then show you how to create each of the components that go inside of the cocktail. Then we'll serve it up and taste it out and see how it goes. So with that in mind, let's make some magic at the bar. The card Chaos Orb is exactly that. It's a very chaotic card. The card reads, you can pay 1 mana and flip Chaos Orb in the air from a distance of at least 1 foot. It has to flip over on itself, and whatever cards it lands on the table are destroyed. So rumor has it, a gentleman was playing in a tournament, and they'd gotten into a game where there was no way that they could have won. They did have a Chaos Orb on the battlefield, and before the end of the turn, they kind of just went into the tank. They thought for a while about how could I get out of this game? And what they realized was they could take the card Chaos Orb and tear it into tons and tons and tons of tiny pieces, right? And then, from a distance of at least 1 foot, he went and dropped them all over the opponent's battlefield, effectively destroying all of the permanents that it touched. So, the judges were called over and they had to figure out what to do, and they said, well, technically, he didn't break the rules, and nobody knows whether or not it was allowed. But nonetheless, judges quickly came to the conclusion that cards that had to do with dexterity had to be banned. So, what I've done is I've taken that story to make a cocktail. We're going to use some really bold flavors: blood orange, mezcal, Angostura bitters, ginger syrup, and we're going to use those and present the cocktail inside of an ice sphere, and we'll crack it open in order to serve the drink. So, with that in mind, let's clean this up and let's go make the drink.
So the first ingredient I'm going to walk through how to make is my honey ginger syrup. It's one of my favorite syrups, and I use it in a ton of recipes. It starts with a knob of ginger. I'm making a smaller batch, so 1.5 inch knob will do. However, you can scale that amount up or down based on how much syrup you want to make and how spicy you want that syrup. We'll begin by removing the hard outer bits with a knife, and then I like to use a spoon to remove the rest of the skin. We're going to slice that ginger into small pieces and then set it aside. We'll then grab a scale and a saucepan. We'll set the saucepan on the scale and zero it out, and then add equal parts of honey, sugar, and water. Again, I'm making a smaller batch, so 100 grams each. We'll then add the prepared ginger to the saucepan and bring it over to the stove to cook on medium heat for 5 to 10 minutes. As it warms up, we're going to stir to dissolve any sugar or honey into the water. And then we're going to let that simmer, like I said, for 5 to 10 minutes. Be careful not to let it boil over during that time. If you see any bubbles form, it will like to boil over very quickly. So if you see it, remove the saucepan from the burner, let the bubbles die down, lower the heat, and then return it to a simmer. Once cooked, we're going to take an immersion blender and blend those ginger pieces into the syrup. We'll then let it cool and grab a bottle, a funnel, and a fine mesh strainer, and we'll use that to strain out any pulpy ginger bits, and what you'll be left with is the fantastic, spicy honey ginger syrup. So the next ingredient I'm going to walk through how to make is our acid-adjusted blood orange agave cordial. This begins with 2 washed blood oranges and a citrus peeler. We're going to peel the skin of one of the oranges, and we're going to use a knife to remove any white pith left on those orange peels. From the second blood orange, we're going to remove 1 thick strip of orange. This will just be used for garnish, so keep it separate from the other orange peels. We'll then cut each blood orange in half and juice them. And again, save that juice for our cordial. We're then going to use the peels from the first orange to make an acid saccharum from it. If you're familiar with an oleosaccharum, it's basically the same process, except we're using acids to draw out the oils from the oil peels instead of sugar. Shout out to Kevin Coase and his super juice calculator. I use it all the time for my recipes. So for this recipe, we'll need citric and malic acid. We're going to measure out 13.5 grams of citric acid and add it to our orange peels. We're then going to add 1.5 grams of malic acid and again add that to our orange peels. Cover the container and shake it to coat the orange peels with the acid and then let it sit out for a few hours. What you'll notice is that the acids have dissolved and drawn out the oils from the orange peels. This is our orange acid saccharum. We'll then dump this container into a larger vessel along with our blood orange juice. I use the blood orange juice to rinse out any remaining acid or syrup from that container. We're then going to zero out our scale and add 250 grams of filtered water. And finally, we'll add 150 grams of agave syrup. We'll blend and bottle this mixture. In order to filter out the small bits of orange peel, I use a cheesecloth along with a fine mesh strainer. And I personally find orange juice to just not work very well in cocktails. So we go through this preparation, which still allows for the beautiful blood orange color and flavor to shine while balancing out the acidity and sweetness levels to make it work really well in this cocktail. So the final thing that we will need to prepare is the vessel itself. We need to make the ice sphere that we're going to be serving the cocktail in. What we're going to do is fill a spherical ice mold with water and make sure that there's no air bubble. We want to fill it all the way to the top. Place it in the freezer for about 4 hours. 4 hours in my freezer. It could be shorter or longer depending on how cold you have your freezer set to. I like to flip my ice mold upside down about halfway through just to make sure that the ice freezes evenly. We're then going to remove the sphere from the freezer, run it under some hot water to ensure that it freely releases from the mold, and then we'll grab some sort of metal rod. I've found that my honing blade that I use for my knives works really well. What we're going to do is press the honing blade into the ice sphere, and the pressure along with the heat conductivity properties of the metal will melt the ice, creating a hole. We'll then drain the water out of the ice sphere and place it back into the freezer so we can use it later. Make sure that the hole is facing up. When you place it in the freezer, it'll help make a flat surface on the bottom of the ice sphere so that when you are trying to fill it up later on, it's got a flat surface that it can, stay upright with. That's all we need in order to create the cocktail. So next up, I'll see you at the bar and we'll make the drink.
So now that we've prepared all of the ingredients, let's put it together. First and foremost, let's use 1.5 ounces of mezcal. My preference is Del Maguey Vita Mezcal. One ounce of our blood orange agave cordial. About a third of an ounce, maybe a quarter of an ounce, depending on how sweet you like your drinks, of our ginger syrup. Three solid dashes of Angostura bitters. And 1 dropper's worth of Bitterman's Habanero Shrub. So maybe 10 or 15 drops. Let's also prepare our glass. So take our orange peel. I trimmed it up to make it look nice. I'm just going to express the orange oil over the glass. Then we'll fold it up. Just leave it there. Now, because we're dealing with citrus, I want to aerate the drink a little bit, but I don't want to, cause a ton of dilution. So I'm using 1 big ice sphere here from a previous failed attempt. We'll just give it a quick shake. We also want to cool the drink down so it doesn't melt the ice as soon as we take that out of the fridge. So, cool. With that in mind, I'm going to transfer the drink into a mixing glass. Just because it has a pouring spout, it'll make it easier to pour into cocktail. Now let's go grab the ice. That is just a perfect drink. It's bold. It's normally I don't like orange in cocktails, but because we adjusted the acidity level to make it more similar to like a lime or a lemon juice, it balances the drink out really well while still maintaining that kind of orange sweetness to it. Anyways, I really enjoyed it. I hope you all try it out and enjoy it as well. And there you have Chaos Orb. Now, go make some magic at the bar and have a good one. Alrighty. So I just wanted to shoot a quick talking head at the end of the video here. This is my first time ever making YouTube content. In fact, it's my first time ever making a video ever. I have no experience with film or video editing, with recording, with being in front of a camera. So bear with me as I'm learning how to do all this stuff. But you know, given that this is the first time I had to do it, I had to teach myself how to use video editing software, how to get lighting to work. And so a lot of work has gone into making this first video. With that in mind, your support would mean the world to me. So if you could, you know, like, subscribe, but more than anything, share this with people who you think might be interested, people who are into magic or into making craft cocktails. That would mean more to me than anything else. So thank you for watching. Again, please share this with your friends. And if you have any ideas for cocktails you want me to make in the future, any magic puns that we can use for making craft cocktails, any ideas for different content that you might want to see, please let me know. I'd love to engage with the community and create something together. So I think that's me signing off, and I appreciate you all sticking around watching this video. Cheers.